All right, Pastor Ryan here with your Wednesday Watering. We are talking about this kind of idea and subject around church planting. And the most recent professor I had for my final class in this area was from the UK and had a lot of insight for us. And some of the books we read were from that area. This one in particular by Stephen Pass, Church Planting in the Secular West, was kind of learning from some of the things that they've learned in Europe. Because, you know, quite frankly, oftentimes the movement of Christianity is we're kind of following that a little bit. And you know there's been such a decline in church attendance in Europe and then now in the United States. We know that as well. But there's also been some revival in church planting as well. And so one of the things I really gained from this was the reality that the business models are fading. And you know, I've been a part of a lot of church meetings throughout my time, especially as before I was a pastor, you know, and served on all those committees, and then as my current leadership role, and we always have a tendency to gravitate back to these business models. Now, we can use these business models, of course. They bring some good things. There's good to using them because we understand them. They can help move us forward. But they also sort of often assume that we have a product that people are going to want. But what if the product that we have, Christianity in a sense, is no longer wanted by the people in our community? And that's sort of the reality of planting churches and of sharing the gospel, like for us as we revitalize the church, this idea that, all right, well, what if nobody's really interested? Or what if this isn't something they want anymore? And the great thing I pulled out of this was that maybe there are no more models anymore. We've kind of made a living out of looking for where one church is being successful, and then how do we just duplicate that model, you know? And but what if those models, we just kind of need to allow those to fall away? One of the things that we've copied from Europe a lot were these ideas of fresh expressions. And you've heard a lot of these. We've done a lot of trainings about these. I've been to them. I've seen churches that have been successful with some of these. But I know in my own work and what I've seen in others as well, is what we often end up doing is we create these spaces that end up being for people that are already church members. Like, you know, maybe I've created other services before, or we do things like a dinner church. And what ends up happening is the people that are already part of the church just end up migrating to another church. That happens, right? We've seen that happen in our own community. That really isn't good for the advancement of the gospel. The whole church planting and all of church revitalization needs to be for the good of the Big C church, right? For the reaching of those who aren't currently connected to the church. And so I think one of the greatest things we can learn from what's happened across the pond, so to speak, and then what's currently happening here in the secular West is that we need to continue to be creative, right? We've got to be willing to try new things, to allow old things to fade away, and to be risky. We've got to take some risk. We've got to be willing to fail. And I think as a church, you know, we've stepped out and we've done some of that. You look at what we did with the Sprouts program, reinvigorating that, and we've had success with that. And so that's a good model for just allowing one thing to kind of dissipate and another thing to come forward and creatively reach new people for Christ. So we love you, and we'll see you on Sunday.